Medical clinic in a Trump voting town in Nebraska is now closing because of Donald Trump's slashes to Medicaid.
Tell you how this is affecting my state, where the majority voted for this. Here's how these proposed budget reconciliation, I will not call it by that other freaking name, would likely impact healthcare in Nebraska.
Nebraska clinic closes. Yeah, a clinic has already closed, knowing full well of what is coming with the big bad Republican bill.
And it begins. A rural hospital in Nebraska closed, citing the upcoming bill that's going to cut health care for millions. And guess who won Nebraska in the 2024 election? Trump. So it's already hurting his supporters. It's like watching cows lining up to go to the slaughterhouse and them applauding it. Like, bro, make it make sense.
Hey, Nebraska, do you need a tissue for your issues? Hey, Nebraska, save the drama for your mama. What happened, Nebraska? Did voting for Trump ruin your economy? Oh, that's weird. That's so weird. It's kind of like we told you so, right? Oh, I love this. I like to stick it in your face and rub it in.
Capitol was stormed today by senior citizens in wheelchairs wearing t-shirts saying healthcare cuts will kill, while peacefully protesting the big pile of trash bill that will cut millions of low-income and disabled people off Medicaid. They had to zip tie them to make sure that they couldn't use their hands to use the button to do a getaway in their wheelchair, because those things can get up to like 8 miles an hour. It could have been a high-speed wheelchair chase. They could have had to call out the copters. They also had to confiscate their signs that said, Senate Republicans don't kill us, save Medicaid, and 60 million off Medicaid. And all of this was because it's apparently illegal to protest inside the Capitol. And I remember an event a couple years ago where, a couple thousand people stormed the Capitol, vandalized, looted, assaulted, injured 174 police officers. Those people are celebrated and given pardons by our president, while disabled senior citizens are arrested for protesting millions of low-income and disabled people losing their health care. Make it make sense.
So you were telling me that people are unaware, they're unaware that the whole reason why hospitals are not allowed to turn you away in an emergency situation, regardless of your ability to pay, is because of the Emergency Medical Treatment and Labor Act, which states that hospitals who receive Medicare funding are not allowed to turn you away. And they are proposing to cut back on Medicare and Medicaid. Talk to a caseworker. There are no ineligible people who are receiving it. The only people who are receiving it are eligible because there is a vetting process. All these people that they say are illegally getting it, it's not happening. The point is to start the process to get rid of it entirely. And if we get rid of the only guaranteed payment for medical care in this country and we leave it all to our pockets with no support, guess what's going to happen to you? You are going to lose out on care because hospitals are going to close who depend on that funding. We don't have enough money to pay the bills that they decided were fair, which I'm sorry, I just had a life-saving surgery and I owe $3,000.
Hey, what's up everybody? How are you doing? I'm hoping that you're doing great from wherever you're watching me from. As you know, I'm your host and presenter Eugene Stories. Well, I'm hoping that you're doing fine. Now, again, I'll start saying this might not be the easiest time of Nebraska. People of Nebraska, you know their history. If you know very well that Nebraska voted, majority of them, 80% of Nebraskans voted Mr. Donald Trump. But according to the recent news says that the Medicare, the Medicaid that gave Nebraskans access to health facilities is being cut off. And this has negative implications toward Nebraskans. But at the end of the day, what do we say? We say that this is a decision that they made themselves. And this is what is happening to them. Look, I don't want to say much. I want to switch this video. really this might not be a really good time for Nebraskans, because what they're going through right now, from their farmers, from their construction workers, and now it has started going into their health facilities. And you know the negative implications that these has towards the Nebraskans. Now, you know very well that there is a paradox between political loyalty and economic between Nebraska farmers and Mr. Donald Trump. You know very well that there is a deeply conservative and predominantly rural state which overwhelmingly voted for Mr. Donald Trump in 2016, in 2020, and also last year. And you know how this went. Trump's political appeal in this region rested on cultural conservatism, anti-immigration rhetoric, and promise to revitalize forgotten Americans. However, the recent cuts of Medicaid and Medicare, a lifeline for low-income, elderly, and disabled residents, reveal a contradiction between political loyalty and economic interest. Nebraska is now confronting the uncomfortable reality that the man they supported is implementing policies that directly harm their communities. What a time to be alive. So I want to switch this video. You know very well that I'll be back and then we'll have a discussion in regards to this. I'm your host and presenter, Eugene Duke Stories. If you're watching me for the first time, I'll definitely ask you to subscribe to the channel, join the membership, and really get to see what I can offer you. But until then, let's watch the video. I'll be back.
If I don't pay $55 fucking dollars that I don't have to my primary care physician, they can decide to no longer treat me, and they will. And I've got to start all over again somewhere else. You all think that you're safe because, it's been that way because we fought to get it that way, and they're reversing it. You all have been so fucking pampered that you don't understand what we had to fight for to get you. Oh, but everyone dies. Bitch, apparently not fucking politicians.
All right, friends, we have some extreme breaking news. Please listen up. Senate Republicans just voted 51-49. This advances Trump's 940-page big, beautiful bill. And it gets worse fast. Here's what they're sneaking in. $793 billion slashed from Medicaid in the next 10 years. Cutting coverage for over 10 million people. And it's even hitting rural hospitals hard. $295 billion yanked from SNAP, aka food stamps. This is a $5 trillion increase to the debt ceiling. Yes, trillion with a T to pay for it all. That's $4.5 trillion in tax cuts in the next 10 years, and that's, of course, for the wealthiest. They're making Trump's 2017 tax cuts permanent, expanding SALT deductions, wiping out green energy credits, and adding $150 billion to immigration enforcement. Oh, and how are they doing this? By rushing a 940-page bill through debate, all before July 4th, friends, while most senators haven't even read it. Friends, this changes your life. Who gets health care? Who gets food stamps? Even to how much debt you owe. This is not hypothetical. Friends, make sure you're calling your senators, letting them know not to pass this bill without full transparency. If we stay silent, this passes. No one...
I swear Nebraska is the poster child for fuck around and find out. Their first FAFO moment was when their farm workers were deported by ICE because they thought it wasn't going to happen to them. I mean, they voted for Trump, but they didn't think that they were going to come and deport their workers. And ICE is like, no, anyone that's brown, we're just going to deport them because whatever. So then, Nebraskan farms are like, wait, no, we need those people. Otherwise our farms are going to go bankrupt. And they're like, don't really care. So their second FAFO moment came today as soon as the House bill passed, and Cowardice Medical Center in Cowardice, Nebraska announced that it's closing. And there are 6 other rural hospitals that are planning to close with these Medicaid cuts. And if you know anything about emergency medicine, whether it's a heart attack or a stroke or trauma, time is of the essence and distance is of the essence. So ultimately, people are going to die. And that's most likely going to be farmers, which are a huge group of Trump supporters. Now, don't get me wrong. The House of Representatives said, hey, we have a kitty. We're going to do a little bank to help rural hospitals. And what we're going to do is we're just going to tax state hospitals more. Well, that's not taxing the hospital. That's taxing the people that go to the hospital. So in one hand, they're going, oh, we're giving, we voted for this bill because we're giving tax cuts to Nebraskans, but then we're going to raise your taxes, Nebraskans, when you go to the hospital or you receive any services, right? It's all good. But I mean, that's for par for Nebraska, because in January, they were operating with a budget shortfall of $400 million. And then they passed the budget, and now they're only going to operate at a deficit of $289 million. So, it's not like anyone can do math there or run their state very well. But they seem to think Republicans are great, doing a lot for them as they run their state into the ground. Keep doing what works for you, I guess. I don't know. Fuck.
I just tried to call my representative's office. It's Mike Flood from Nebraska. And it rang and then they hung up. And then I called back and it said it was busy. And so either it's actually busy and everyone and their mother is calling him, or he's specifically avoiding my call, which I wouldn't doubt. But yeah, this big beautiful bill thing is literally going to bankrupt the state of Nebraska. And actually, Aaron Parnas just posted a video about how in rural Nebraska, a clinic has already closed, I think in anticipation of this passing, because this state doesn't have the resources to go without what they're cutting in this bill. So Nebraska, where it's done and over.
To go to the slaughterhouse and them applauding it. Like, bro, make it make sense. It's crazy because, like, as long as they think it's gonna hurt the others, they're okay with it. Oh, what the, like, I'm lost for words.
Nebraska girl, what's going on? So I wanted to be a little bit nosy, and I saw this news article that Nebraska, this one county in southwest Nebraska, is closing due to Medicaid cuts. It's located in McCook County, which is also a part of Red Willow. Essentially, the CEO of the community hospital said, unfortunately, the current financial environment driven by anticipated federal budget cuts to Medicaid has made it impossible for us to continue operating all of our services, many of which have faced significant challenges for years. The Nebraska Hospital Association has been pushing back against the Medicaid cuts in the One Big Beautiful Bill as it's being considered in Congress. Mind you, Hakeem Jeffries is still currently debating this bill on the floor. Actually, not even debating yet. I think he's still in the middle of his miracle minute. So I decided to head over to Nebraska's general elections website, because everything is public information. And I did a little bit of digging. This is for Red Willow / McCook, right? This is how many registered voters they had. This is for the November 5th, 2024 election. This is from their county website, right? Look at who won. Look at the first line. My head is right here. You see it. 83% of the population of that county voted for Trump and Vance. And now their local community hospital will have to shut down. I keep asking you guys, if he steals from you, are you ready to lay him out? Because Fox told you what's going on. 16 of the elected GOP officials told you guys what's going on. Do they want to pass? Absolutely not. Are they going to pass? Of course, because they're up his ass. Unless you could stop them. They're your elected officials. They work for you, right? You going to lay down and take it? I mean, clearly you are. You already lost the hospital.
Today is going to go down as a truly sad day in American history. Trump's tax bill just passed, and I'm going to give an example of how this is already impacting communities, and specifically communities in red states that voted for Donald J. Trump. Now, let me explain. Curtis County, Nebraska is a one-hospital town. They've got one place for people to get their medical care, and yesterday, the CEO of the hospital said because the bill is passing, he will no longer be able to financially justify keeping its doors open. So people in that community no longer have access to healthcare in a close vicinity. It's really sad. And as much as I like saying FAFO, F around and find out, because this is a community in a county that supported Donald Trump 87% in the 2024 election, it really is sad because there are people that are no longer going to have access to the care that they need in a close proximity to where they live. This is just one of many, many areas that we expect to lose their hospitals and lose their healthcare facilities due to this bill. Some estimates say over 500 places could lose their hospitals and retirement homes, and I saw that about 6 are expected in Nebraska to close as well. This is a sad day for America, and we are going to continue to see the terrible impacts of this bill as time continues to pass on. But if you're into silver linings, there's $1 trillion in tax cuts for millionaires and billionaires. Absolutely disgraceful. Everyone who voted for this bill, you should be ashamed.
So guys, okay, there's this article I just found going on in Nebraska. I just want to read it for you so you hear what's going on. So big news, it's an article. Nebraska's community hospital in MC Cook just announced it's closing one of its biggest rural clinics, blaming federal Medicaid cuts in Trump's big beautiful bill. So guys, as you see, this is not only about like closing hospital, it's about warnings on what will happen sooner. So guys, and what's surprise, it's like the way Nebraska supported the orange guy. They voted for this. They thought he's going to put America first. They thought the economy is going to get better. And now in reality, it's getting worse. We all know like the state of Nebraska is going bankrupt, like the farmers, the everything. Even now the hospital is coming. Oh my God. Oh, this is a lot. So guys, let's keep watching. I still have more clips to see. Credit belongs to the owner of the video. I'll be back with their commentary.
Nebraska Representative Don Bacon announced that he will not be seeking re-election. But then he turned around and supported Frumpy Dump's big despicable disaster. Now, he defended the controversial bill in an interview, acknowledging concerns about the Medicaid changes while emphasizing what he sees as critical benefits for the middle class Americans. Now, we all know because of the Medicaid cuts, many rural hospitals are uncertain about their future. And that is no more true than in Nebraska, his very own state. A rural hospital has already started the process of closing down because of their funding uncertainty. Cowardice Medical Center announced that they will be closing their clinic. They have proudly served the Cowardice community and surrounding areas for over 30 years, providing essential healthcare services to families, students, and individuals in this rural region. But the decision to close the facility was not made lightly and followed an extensive evaluation of financial sustainability and resource allocation. The president and CEO of the hospital said, unfortunately, the current financial environment driven by anticipated federal budget cuts to Medicaid has made it impossible for us to continue operating all of our services, many of which have faced significant financial challenges for years. Don Bacon was confronted about this hospital closing, and this is what he wrote. The hospital isn't closing because of this bill. That's silly. Again, the CEO says, unfortunately, the current financial environment driven by anticipated federal budget cuts to Medicaid has made it impossible for us to continue operating all of our services. Don Bacon was not running for re-election. He can't defend the indefensible. He let his own people down because Frumpy Dump made promises to his billionaire friends that they were going to receive these tax cuts. And now, because of Don Bacon, those citizens in that area will not have access to health care. It's already started, and the bill ain't even been signed into law yet. And this is only the beginning. Just wait. Just wait. All right, players, put your thoughts in the comments. Don Bacon is a coward, and he should be ashamed of himself. But I'm not surprised by Don Bacon. He's been ridiculous all over social media, taint sniffing for Frumpy Dump for years. And it doesn't surprise me that he sucked his taint once again at the expense of his very own neighbors, his own constituents. Put your thoughts in the comments, players. This is Double D Mo for the Black Here News.
I'm from Nebraska, and it's no surprise that Ricketts voted for Trump's god-awful, horribly dangerous bill. Senator Pete Ricketts used to be our governor here in Nebraska, and his family is extremely wealthy. They own TD Ameritrade, they own the Chicago Cubs, and he basically has bought off all the offices in Nebraska. How I've intersected with him is I'm a pediatrician. I've done a lot of public health, a lot of statewide work. I've been a leader in child health advocacy. I was the governor appointed under him chair of the Early Childhood Interagency Coordinating Council that oversaw the NDE, so Nebraska Department of Ed, and then Nebraska DHHS, we have Head Start, and then all of the early childhood work that was happening, all the early childhood data. And so we were an advisory board, all governor appointed from across the state, and we would meet and create a biennial report. It's legislated that we're required to do this. It goes to the governor's office. We are to present all the data of amazing stuff happening, even during COVID, okay? So what happened was he never met with me. He never met with our team. He never met with our council to go over the report, any of the early childhood data during any part of my term serving on that council or as chair. He simply completely ignored any requests we had to share our data, to share what was going on in early childhood in the state of Nebraska. He did absolutely nothing. He didn't communicate. He didn't respond to requests. And this was very unprecedented when the governors before in the past had met, and it was common practice that they, really took on early childhood and played a role even if they were Republican. Okay, so this guy does absolutely frickin' nothing, okay? This is a big deal for me to say this, okay, and to come out with this. So he does no work, he does nothing, he didn't appoint anybody while during my term and while I served on that to the council. So we were just really kind of trickling down in numbers, and it was really sad. So now he's senator. Now he's just going to go along with Trump with this horrible bill. And why would anybody be surprised? But what you might be surprised at is that he does absolutely nothing. A lot of these legislators, a lot of these political leaders, they absolutely don't do their job. They don't do any work at all. They have no interest in anything at all that's happening to children in their state. And Medicaid being cut, don't care. They absolutely do not care about children's health. They only care about profiting themselves and building up their families.
Services that people need. A lot of folks that are hearing about this though are not showing empathy because in many ways Nebraska voted for this. And in that county specifically, they voted overwhelmingly for the person that is promoting the cuts that are happening right now. Unfortunately, this is another example of folks voting against their interests, folks that were expecting that their living conditions, their livelihood was going to improve, and the opposite is happening. And listen, y'all, I understand why a lot of folks don't have empathy, but I feel bad for these folks because the system that we're living in over and over again keeps hurting the folks that are the most marginalized. But those are my thoughts, familia. I want this to be a conversation. What do you all think about this? Do you agree with what I said? Or are you on the side that doesn't feel any empathy for these folks? And if you are somebody that lives in Nebraska, what do you think about this? This is crazy.
And it's happening because Republicans voted for this. Republicans did this to Americans. So you will struggle now. Millions of you will be without any health care. Millions of you will be without healthcare facilities to go to. You'll have to now drive out of your way some 40, 50, 60, 70 miles or more because these clinics are going to close because of the Medicaid payments. That's right. This is brought to you by Republicans. You have no one else to blame. Republicans are doing this, and clinics are starting to close already.
Hello brothers and sisters, welcome back to the channel. Well, I'm hoping that you're doing great, and I think you've watched the video for yourself and you've most definitely seen what I'm talking about. Now, let's talk about Nebraska's demographic dependence on public health care. While often seen as prosperous farming state, Nebraska has a significant population of elderly and low-income residents, especially in rural areas. According to Kaiser Family Foundation data, nearly 1 in 5 Nebraskans rely on Medicaid or Medicare for healthcare access. Cuts to these programs disproportionately affect small towns where hospitals are already under-resourced and travel to urban medical centers is difficult. The reduction in federal funding jeopardizes rural healthcare infrastructure, which increases medical bankruptcies and exacerbates health disparities. You know very well that Nebraska is being occupied by elderly, because this is a rural state. This is a rural place that is being occupied by the elderly. So this means that these are people that needs a critical medical attention, right? Because these are people that have certain diseases or have certain lifestyle that needs to be checked. And so when we have all these medical access being cut, just like Mr. Donald Trump did, it implies that there is a negative consequence. And this is a conservative area, which voted for Mr. Donald Trump 2020, somewhere around 2024. And not 2024, I mean 2025, 2024. And recently, this is what happened. So, as you can see, rural hospitals on the brink. Nebraska's rural hospitals are kept afloat by Medicaid reimbursements. These funds allow hospitals to treat uninsured or uninsured patients without immediate financial loss. With the federal government slashing those payments, many of these hospitals face budget crisis, layoffs, or even closures. Once a rural hospital closes, the ripple effects are devastating, right? Longer travel times for emergencies, job losses, reduction of quality of care, and economic decline is already struggling community. Nebraskans are going through it, and they're learning that this is an already suffering community, right? I'll talk about Medicaid expansion, which was already controversial. Nebraska voters approved Medicaid expansion through a 2018 ballot initiative after the state legislature repeatedly refused to adopt it. This expansion allowed thousands of working-class Nebraskans to gain coverage. Trump's budget cuts undermined the hard-won policy victory, essentially negating the will of the voters. The betrayal is stark. Citizens fought for and won expanded access to healthcare, only to see it stripped away by the president many of them supported. Right? It is a betrayal. And as you thought that this is an elderly area, this is an area that is being occupied by a lot of elders, this meant that these people supported Mr. Donald Trump because of the conservatism in these places. But they didn't think about the healthcare, because according to the 2018 ballot that they did, they tried to push for this Medicare and Medicaid, which was being resisted, but they forced it. But right now, what has happened to it? Mr. Donald Trump has taken it away, right? Let's talk about the implication of this in aging populations. Nebraska's aging population is directly threatened by cuts to Medicare, and this is true. It's inevitable, just like any other society, right? Seniors depend on programs not only for doctor visits and hospital stays, but also prescriptions and preventative care. Any weakening of Medicare coverage forces elderly Nebraskans to choose between paying for medication, food, or utilities. The burden often falls on family caregivers, many of whom are working class themselves and unequipped to handle the rising costs of long-term care. I like to talk about this is really devastating, because you know very well that the elderly need a special attention. There's a special attention that the elderly needs to be given. Well, you know that if they're not given this, there is a negative consequence that these has towards them. High mortality rate, because you understand their immunity, right? They need health. These are elderly people that need health. But you understand what Nebraskans voted for. They voted against this. Right now, you're saying this is happening to them, right? Let's talk about economic fallout. Healthcare as a job sector. Healthcare is a major employer in Nebraska, particularly in areas where manufacturing and agriculture jobs have declined. Medicaid and Medicare cuts means job losses, not just for doctors and nurses, but for the administrative staffs, janitors, drivers, and aides. The healthcare sector acts as economic stabilizer, right, in smaller communities. As funding dries up, Layoffs ripple across local economies, depressing consumer spending and increasing dependency on other government programs, which are often also being cut. Let's talk about the betrayal narrative and political disillusionment. This betrayal could lead to growing political disillusionment among white working class voters who believed Trump represented their values and interests. When the consequences of policy hit home, losing a local clinic, being unable to afford medications, watching a neighbor die due to delayed care, voters may begin to question their past choices. This disillusionment, however, does not automatically translate into shift towards more progressive politics. It can also breed cynicism, withdrawal from civic engagement, or doubling down on cultural grievances. Right? Talk about race, class, and politics of deservingness. Part of Trump's success in places like Nebraska involved a racialized messaging about who deserves government aid. Programs like Medicaid were often portrayed as handouts for undeserving urban minorities. But in reality, white rural residents have always been significant beneficiaries of these programs. Now that cuts are affecting them directly, the racial and moralized framing of welfare is being tested. Some may finally recognize the shared vulnerability of all poor and working class Americans, regardless of race. Right? Though others may cling to old narratives to avoid confronting that truth. Right? Let's talk about repercussions for health crisis. Cuts to healthcare funding came amid growing public health challenges, rising mental illness, opioid addiction, untreated diabetes, and long COVID-19 in Nebraska, where rural mental health services are scarce and addiction treatment is limited. Slashing Medicaid and Medicare worsens a crisis that is already pushing families to the brink. Public health, once seen as a background of concern, may become more political issues as it touches more lives directly. Let's talk about the role of local and state governments in this. Nebraska state government will only face increased pressure to fill the gap left by the federal cuts. However, without the new revenue streams of willingness to raise taxes, the state's ability to respond is limited. County health departments, community health centers, and nonprofits may try to step in, but these institutions are already stretched thin. Ultimately, the failure of federal leadership trickles down, causing paralysis at the local level. I also like to talk about the long-term political realignments. While Trump's policies are hurting Nebraska's, it is unclear whether this will cause immediate political realignment. Historically, many voters in red states vote based on identity, religion, or cultural values, more than policy outcomes. However, younger generations, more diverse populations in cities like Lincoln and Omaha, and independent voters may begin to see the GOP's anti-government ideology as harmful rather than principled. If healthcare insecurity continues to grow, it could become a wedge issue in future elections. Talk about a mirror for a nation. Nebraska serves as a microcosm of larger contradictions in American politics. A population that demands healthcare but votes for politicians who promise austerity. Communities depend on government programs while scorning big governments. Trump's betrayal of Nebraska is not unique. It mirrors what is happening across many red states. But it offers an opportunity for reflection, education, and potentially transformation. The question is whether Nebraskans will continue to vote against their own interest or begin to build a new political conscience consciousness grounded in justice, equity, and the truth meaning of community support. I'm your host and presenter, Eugene Stories. But until then, let me see you in my next video. Until then, peace, love, and harmony. Salute.